Chapter 5207. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Yifeng and Chu Yingming both let out a sigh of relief, a joyful expression appearing on their faces. Chu Yingming rejoiced. From Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, he could tell that she originally didn't want to agree, but because of Di Yujue, she chose to agree. For a moment, he really rejoiced that his father first sought the help of the Di family. Otherwise they really would have been finished. When Di Yujue saw Bailey Hongzhuang make such a decision, he was also somewhat surprised. However, he also understood the reason behind Bailey Hongzhuang's decision, and immediately admired her even more. Not only was his daughter-in-law capable, she was also very thorough in handling matters. She was truly worthy of being Beichen's good helper. In the future, he would be able to hand over the Di family to them. So he was completely at ease. Miss Bailey, then I'll have to trouble you. Chu Yifeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Although he still didn't know the result of the treatment, he didn't know why, but he felt that this matter was already set in stone. Many thanks. Chu Yingming also spoke out. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. So Uncle Chu and my father are good friends. It is only natural for me to help, no need to be so polite. Once these words were spoken, Chu Yifeng immediately felt even more grateful towards Di Yujue. This was all because of Di Yujue that Bailey Hongzhuang agreed. Since young Master Chu is here to treat your injuries, then there is no time to lose. Shall we begin now? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Chu Yingming. Chu Yingming was surprised at first, but after reacting he quickly nodded and said, Then I'll have to trouble you. Wu Weiming immediately gave up his seat, a joyful expression on his face. I can also take this opportunity to learn from my master. Looking at Wu Weiming's respectful attitude, Chu Yifeng no longer had any doubts. Who would have thought that the young Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were even more outstanding than Wu Weiming's? Brother Chu, don't worry. Hongzhuang's medical skills are superb. There shouldn't be any problems, Di Yujue said with a faint smile. By now, he understood Bailey Hongzhuang's character very well. If she wasn't confident enough, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely explain it in advance. And until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had not said such a thing, which proved that she had enough confidence. Chu Yifeng nodded, his gaze sincere. Brother Di, thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm as she treated Chu Yingming. In fact, she understood the situation very well. She was the one who had poisoned him, so it would be easy for her to detoxify him. However, if it was completed so easily, Chu Yingming and Chu Yingyu would naturally not be too grateful. Therefore, he had to act as if it was extremely difficult. For this kind of situation, she was very good at it. The damage to your foundation is really complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, her face showing a bit of helplessness. Hearing this, Chu Yingming's heart sank. According to what Wu Weiming said, Bailey Hongzhuang was his only hope. If Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cure him, then there was no chance for him. Miss Bailey, is Yingming's situation untreatable? Chu Yifeng's heart also rose. After noticing the anxious expressions of the two, Bailey Hongzhuang said, It's not that it can't be cured, it's just that it's a bit troublesome. Chu Yingming's heart immediately calmed down. As long as there was a way, then it was fine. I'll have to trouble you. Chapter 5208. Immediately afterwards, under the gaze of Chu Yifeng and the others, they saw Bailey Hongzhuang take out silver needles and begin to treat Chu Yingming. The silver needles accurately pierced into Chu Yingming's acupuncture points, and a rich power entered his body through the trembling silver needles. Chu Yifeng and Chu Yifeng were naturally laymen, but from the sweat on Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead and the gradually paling face, they could see that she was working very hard to treat Chu Yingming. After seeing this scene, Di Yujue couldn't help but feel sorry for Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't expect that for this favor, Bailey Hongzhuang would work so hard. Thinking of this, he even felt some regret. If he knew that this process would be so difficult, he would have just refused. If Bailey Hongzhuang became sick from exhaustion, he would feel even more sorry. After Di Beichen noticed Di Yujue's complexion, he couldn't help but send a sound transmission. Father, don't worry, Hongzhuang is fine. You brat. Why don't you feel sorry for Hongzhuang at all? Di Yujue frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang's pale complexion, how could she be fine? Not only Di Yujue, Chu Yifeng and Chu Yingming couldn't help but feel guilty after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's laborious appearance. Di Beichen heard this and laughed in his heart. Father, Hongzhuang's appearance is actually faked. If not, why would Chu Yingming and the others feel that they owe us a big favor? When these words came out, Di Yujue was slightly stunned, then immediately understood. He didn't expect these two little guys to be so smart, even thinking of this problem. He discreetly sized up Chu Yifeng, and sure enough, Chu Yifeng's expression also changed. If he had pretended to be sincere before because he wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to treat him, then his attitude now was undoubtedly more sincere than before. Chu Yingming stared blankly at the busy Bailey Hongzhuang, and couldn't help but recall the various things that had happened back then. In fact, if they had not listened to Jun Lingxuan's slanderous words and decided to join forces to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, with their personalities, they would not have left them in the lurch. This could be seen from Chen Feng and Morong Jing, who were on good terms with them. These two people treated their friends with great sincerity. He suddenly regretted it. This was the worst decision he had ever made. After a long while, Bailey Hongzhuang took back the silver needles and said, I will go and make another medicine. After you take it, your problem will be solved. Hearing this, Chu Yingming hurriedly said, Miss Bailey, you are already very tired. How about you rest first? It doesn't matter if I am a bit late. Thinking back to what he had done to Bailey Hongzhuang and Morong Jing, he felt somewhat guilty. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. It doesn't matter. I will go and make the medicine first. With your current situation, the sooner you take it, the better. Chu Yingming, who originally wanted to say something, sunk into silence after hearing this. So there was actually such a reason. Di Beichen followed Bailey Hongzhuang out of the room. After they were some distance away, Bailey Hongzhuang recovered her spirit. How was she still as weak as before? Master, your acting skills are getting better and better. Xiao He couldn't help but sigh. If they didn't know about it beforehand, how could they see that it was all an act? Chapter 5209. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression, Xiao He and Xiao Bai couldn't help but look at each other. As their master and their male master spent more and more time together, their master's black-bellied level had clearly increased. Just now, they had clearly seen the change in Chu Yingming's attitude. He was completely grateful to their master from the bottom of his heart. Where was the slightest bit of resentment from before? Thinking back to how the jade toad disappeared just like that, they could only admire their master's method of buying people's hearts. It was truly incomparably powerful. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished brewing the antidote, she returned once again. However, when she returned, her complexion was even paler than before. She looked like she was already powerless, and could only force herself to complete everything. Seeing this scene, Chu Yifeng felt even more embarrassed. Originally, they had already owed the Di family a favor by coming to ask Di Yujue for help this time. Now they had made Bailey Hongzhuang suffer so much. No matter how thick his skin was, he still felt embarrassed. This debt of gratitude was not just an ordinary kind of debt. Chu Yingming's expression was also complicated. He had never thought that it would make Bailey Hongzhuang exhaust so much effort. However, thinking back to how all the doctors had said that this matter was extremely difficult, he could understand. It was indeed very difficult. Otherwise, with Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills, how could she be so tired? Di Yujue also sized up Bailey Hongzhuang. In his heart, he was also extremely impressed by the intelligence of these two little guys. If Di Beichen hadn't already told him the specific situation, he would also feel very distressed, and would even feel that it would be better not to treat it. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the antidote to Chu Yingming and said, Drink this antidote, and the problem will be solved. Once these words were said, Chu Yingming looked back, and his gaze fell on the antidote. His situation had troubled him for so long. He didn't think that now, as long as he drank this antidote, his situation would be completely improved. The surprise came too suddenly. For a moment he didn't even dare to believe it. Yingming, quickly drink it, Chu Yifeng hurriedly said. Seeing this, Chu Yingming did not delay. He remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had said that the earlier one drank the medicinal soup, the better its effects would be. Thus, He picked up the bowl of medicinal soup and drank all of it. After Chu Yingming took the medicine, Chu Yifeng couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and ask, "Miss Bailey, Yingming's injury is already healed?" Although he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been busy for a long time, he didn't know how to judge whether she was well or not. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "That's right, it's done." Bewitching also said, "Chu Yingming, you can feel it for yourself." If Hongzhuang says there's no problem, then there's naturally no problem. Hearing this, Chu Yingming subconsciously began to absorb the surrounding Yuan Li. Immediately after, he felt that the feeling that had been hindering his cultivation for a while had suddenly disappeared. There was no longer any feeling of hindrance. On the contrary, he felt his entire body relax. He hadn't felt this kind of feeling for a long time. As soon as his Yuan Li surged, Chu Yingming was pleasantly surprised to find that he was about to break through. Chu Yifeng naturally also keenly felt that Chu Yingming's aura was different. A trace of ecstasy immediately appeared on his face. This meant that just like Bailey Hongzhuang said, the problem was completely solved. Chapter 52:10. Of course, this was under the assumption that Du Yujue didn't truly understand the whole story. If he knew that the reason why Chu Yingming became like this was all because of Bailey Hongzhuang's poison, and that Bailey Hongzhuang not only cured the poison, but also made the other party shed tears of gratitude, he would probably admire his two-faced son and daughter-in-law. Congratulations, Master Chu. A smile appeared on Wu Weiming's face. It seems that I was right. My master's medical skills are truly the best. Hearing this, Chu Yifeng repeatedly nodded. His gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang was filled with admiration. Now his attitude had completely changed. Don't look at how young Bailey Hongzhuang was. She was definitely a medical grandmaster. Her medical skills were already so exquisite at such a young age. One could only imagine her future. Miss Bailey's medical skills are truly amazing. I am truly grateful. Chu Yifeng's eyes were filled with gratitude. If it weren't for your help, my son's future would have been ruined. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a pale smile. She waved her hand and said, "Uncle Chu, this is what I should do. Master Chu is such a genius. If his cultivation stagnated because of this, it would truly be a pity." As she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang tightly knitted her brows. Her pale face revealed endless exhaustion. Miss Bailey has truly worked too hard this time. You should go back and rest first, Chu Yifeng said with concern. Bewitching promptly spoke up. Uncle Chu, then we'll be leaving first. Chu Yifeng repeatedly nodded. This trip had gone much smoother than he had expected. Now that the biggest problem had been solved, he was completely relaxed. The only difference was that he felt guilty towards Bailey Hongzhuang. In order to treat Chu Yingming, he didn't need to think to know that she had expended a great deal of effort. Brother D, I really have to thank you this time. Chu Yifeng looked towards Du Yujue. I truly feel sorry for making Miss Bailey work so hard. I have some natural treasures here that will be of great help to cultivators. I'll have to trouble you to pass them on for me. Du Yujue smiled and was about to refuse when Chu Yifeng said, Brother D, if you don't accept this, then I really don't have the face to continue staying here. Du Yujue was stunned for a moment when he saw this. After that, his hand that was pushing out also stopped. In that case, I'll accept it on behalf of Hongzhuang. Brother D, I owe you a big favor. Chu Yifeng looked serious, and his deep voice was full of gratitude and sincerity. I've always been a person who draws a clear line between gratitude and grudges. I'll remember how you've treated me. I will never forget this kindness. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. As the head of a family, Chu Yifeng naturally had a dark side, but this time Du Yujue's attitude towards him was so calm that he couldn't scheme against him anymore. If Du Yujue had used this against him before, then he wouldn't have been so polite. Du Yujue didn't have the slightest intention of threatening him because of this. He knew that there was a conflict between the two of them, but he still tried his best to help. Facing Du Yujue like this, if he continued to scheme against him, then he would be too heartless. Before, he didn't interact much with the D family. Because of the Jade Toad, he was originally dissatisfied with the D family. However, after what happened this time, his thoughts completely changed. Chapter 52:11. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the room, she acted as if nothing had happened. After taking a sip of tea, she looked at Di Beichen. Beichen, if we leave like this, Chu family's head should have already remembered this favor, right? Di Beichen smiled faintly. Don't worry, for this kind of matter, father definitely has more methods than us. Once he makes a move, his harvest will definitely not be small. Let's just wait and see the results. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. If they could gain the friendship of the other party, or make the other party owe them a huge favor, this kind of harvest would be even more precious than obtaining heavenly treasures. After all, a favor between aristocratic families was much more effective than heavenly treasures. If they continued to stay there, Chu Yifeng might directly choose to compensate them with heavenly treasures. However, if they left and faced Di Yujue, the situation would be different. Speaking of which, it's really interesting. If it weren't for Jun Lingxuan and the others stopping me, Chu Yingming would already be dead. Thinking about it carefully, the current situation is actually more advantageous for us. There was no need to say more about the enmity between them and the Jun family. No matter what, it was impossible to resolve. Since the Xiao family had already joined hands with the Jun family, they were destined to be opponents. This kind of situation was not good for the family. However, if they had the Chu family as a helper, then the situation would be much better. Correct. Di Beichen smiled faintly. This is all thanks to my wife. Let's stay in the room for the next 2 days. If we want to put on a show, we have to go all out. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly, her gaze distant. Chu Yingming's cultivation has not improved because of the poison. Now that he has broken through, I'm afraid it's not just one level. Let him break through. The greater his harvest, the greater the favor the Chu family owes us. Bai Li Yanche listened to Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's conversation from the side, and sighed in his heart. He had long heard that Chu Yingming was the best at scheming, but now it seemed that he couldn't compare to his sister and brother-in-law in this aspect. Ever since Chu Yingming's injuries were completely healed, everyone discovered that Di Yujue had been very pleased with himself for the past 2 days. To be able to obtain such a huge favor so easily, and make use of it would be of great benefit to the entire clan. He didn't keep this a secret. After Di Lin Xian and the others understood the situation, they sighed in their hearts. My granddaughter-in-law is really amazing. The more I look at her, the more I like her. Xia Wanrong's face was full of joy. When she first saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she liked her very much. Now that she found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Beichen's good wife, she didn't know how to express her love. Beichen is indeed blessed. Di Lin Xian was also pleased with himself. I plan to go out in a few days. Where are you going? Xia Wanrong was a little surprised. I want to go to old man Morong's place. Di Lin Xian slowly said. That old man always mocked me in the past. Now I have to let him know how amazing my grandson and granddaughter-in-law are. Hearing this, Xia Wanrong couldn't help but chuckle. That's right. I'll go with you. It just so happens that I haven't gone out in a long time. Okay. Di Yujue and Lin Yunqing couldn't help but look at each other after hearing this conversation. Then they smiled helplessly. Chapter 52:12. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang had predicted, Chu Yingming had not only broken through by 1 level, but by 2. Compared to his repressed appearance before, he was undoubtedly more high-spirited now. Thinking back to the mockery and ridicule from before, when everyone thought that he would never be able to make a comeback, his current results would definitely shut those people's mouths. However, even though his situation had been completely resolved, he still did not leave the Di family. That was because he wanted to personally apologize to Bailey Hongzhuang and Chu Yingming. He understood that with their previous hostile relationship, it would not be easy for them to help him. Even if the head of the Di family had spoken, it would still be their choice. Otherwise, as long as they were unwilling, they could have just made up an excuse. As such, he would accept this favor. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang left her room, she bumped into Chu Yingming. She raised her eyebrows, naturally understanding why he had come. Miss Bailey, thank you so much for this. Chu Yingming's gaze was deep as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had always stayed here because he wanted to personally thank Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. Mr. Chu, there's no need to be so courteous. I apologize for my previous actions in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. I'm very sorry, Chu Yingming said sincerely. I'm truly grateful that you're willing to help me this time. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Chu Yingming in astonishment. She did not think that this fellow would be so serious. If it was before, she could not be bothered to pay attention to him. However, now that he had taken the initiative to make peace, there was no need for her to continue acting like this. A faint smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face, and her voice became gentler. In the past, we've known each other for a long time. I know that Jun Lingxuan and the others were behind this. Noticing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, Chu Yingming felt joy in his heart. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he had misjudged her. Fortunately, he still had a chance to make up for it. Based on the potential of Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, it was better to befriend them than to be enemies. Miss Bailey, are you feeling better now? Chu Yingming revealed a look of concern. Previously, in order to save him, Bailey Hongzhuang had expended a great deal of effort. When Bewitching arrived, he heard Chu Yingming's words of concern. He slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and sat down. Thank you for your concern. My wife is fine now. Hearing this, Chu Yingming was not completely reassured. Lady Bailey, I see that you seem to have harmed your body greatly after treating me. This makes me feel extremely guilty. You must properly take care of yourself. I have some treasures here that can help you recuperate. I hope they will be helpful to you. After saying that, Chu Yingming handed his cosmos sack to Bailey Hongzhuang. Master Chu, you're too courteous. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Previously, Uncle gave me many things and my father has already given them to me. Now that my situation has improved, you don't need to worry. I can't accept any more of these things. However, Chu Yingming was still insistent. Those are my father's kind intentions. These are my kind intentions. Most of the things here are my gains from the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. They are not very useful to me. You're an alchemist and a doctor. These things are very suitable for you. Chapter 52:13. Bailey Hongzhuang had already seen the things that Chu Yifeng brought over. They were all first-class spirit grasses. She couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. The two of them had already cleared their debt. If she still accepted things, she would feel embarrassed. Chu Yingming saw that Bailey Hongzhuang insisted on not accepting it. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang still wasn't willing to forgive him, so he felt a bit anxious. Miss Bailey, just accept it. This way, I will feel a bit better. Chu Yingming's expression was serious and resolute. Admittedly, he was a selfish person, but when facing the other party's magnanimity, especially when it was a woman, he could no longer face all of this with the same attitude as before. Bewitching's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Chu Yingming's hands. When he noticed that Chu Yingming's hand seemed to have touched Bailey Hongzhuang's skin, his gaze suddenly became gloomy. In the next moment, Bewitching directly grabbed Chu Yingming's hand and placed it between him and Bailey Hongzhuang. Chu Yingming looked at Bewitching with some astonishment. He didn't understand what was going on with him. He saw Bewitching's lips curl up into a smile. His handsome face became brighter and brighter. But for some reason, Chu Yingming felt a bit scared. He felt that something was wrong. But Bewitching was clearly smiling at him. Bewitching took the Qingquan bag from Chu Yingming's hand and placed it in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He said in a pampering and gentle voice, "Wife, since this is young Master Chu's kind intentions, just accept it." Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Bewitching with some astonishment. She also felt that Bewitching's expression was a bit strange. Yes, he looked like he was smiling, but why did she feel like he was angry? Chu Yingming nodded. That's right. Just accept it. Since that's the case, I'll accept it. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Actually, I'm here today to say goodbye, Chu Yingming said. I've already disturbed you for a few days. It's time for me to go back. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Then we'll send you off. Come back often if you have the chance in the future. Chu Yingming lightly smiled. All right. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to send Chu Yingming off with Bewitching suddenly said, Wife, have you forgotten that we're going to find Ling Xiao? Bailey Hongzhuang looked up in surprise. Although they did want to look for Ling Xiao, they did not say that it would be today. Since you're going to look for someone, there's no need to send me off. Chu Yingming lightly smiled. In any case, we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. Take care, Bewitching replied. Chu Yingming slightly nodded, then glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. If there's a chance in the future, you're welcome to come to the Chu residence as guests. I'll be leaving first today. All right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. After Chu Yingming left, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching and said, Let's go. We're going to find Ling Xiao. I'll go back and rest first. Bewitching's face was calm as he walked towards the house. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in the same place, her face complicated and doubtful. Xiaohei, what's going on? Xiaohei shook her head. I don't know either. Perhaps the male master is in a bad mood today. Let's go take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Bewitching was rarely unhappy. Chapter 52:14. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Bewitching's side and asked with concern. Beichen, what's wrong with you today? Are you not feeling well? No. Then let's go find Ling Xiao now. Go ahead. Bewitching replied. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She closed the distance between her and Bewitching, and seriously looked at his handsome face. Her delicate little face was full of confusion. Beichen, you don't seem right today. What's wrong? Looking at the beautiful face that was so close to him, Bewitching's gaze quietly fell on those pink lips. They opened and closed, looking very cute, as if inviting him to taste them. In fact, Bewitching did just that. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was chattering on and on about Bewitching's discomfort, her red lips were directly captured by Bewitching. His domineering kiss directly attacked with a passionate breath. Bailey Hongzhuang's body stiffened for a moment, but she quickly relaxed and responded to the passionate and gentle kiss. She didn't know what was wrong with Beichen today, but she only hoped that Beichen would be happy. Suddenly Bailey Hongzhuang felt a wave of pain. Her red and swollen lips pouted as she stared at Bewitching with dissatisfaction. Beichen, you bit me? I'm punishing you, Bewitching said seriously. However, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's confused and pitiful appearance, he only felt that it was very delicious and couldn't help but become restless. Punishing me? Bailey Hongzhuang was confused. What did I do wrong? You're not allowed to see Chu Yingming alone in the future, Bewitching said in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Why? No reason. Bailey Hongzhuang tilted her head and leaned back a little to put some distance between her and Bewitching. She didn't say anything, and just looked at him quietly. Being stared at by Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching looked a bit unnatural. What are you looking at? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly laughed. Her eyes were full of smiles, and she couldn't help but laugh from the bottom of her heart. Beichen, you're not jealous, are you? Why should I be jealous? Bewitching said seriously, you're already mine. But why do I smell something sour? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her eyes curved into crescents. In short, stay away from Chu Yingming in the future. And if I don't? Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and smiled slyly. She didn't notice this before, but now she was sure of it. Looking at this Beichen, she felt that he was very cute. She didn't expect this man to have such a side to him. A sweet feeling lingered in her heart. You still dare to say no? Beichen's face suddenly sank. In the next moment, his big hands reached out and directly carried Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. It seems that I need to restore my position as the husband. Put me down. I won't. Put me down. Then will you still see Chu Yingming in the future? He's gone. Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly curled her lips. This guy really makes people feel helpless when he's domineering. Then can you put me down? No. Why not? Because I have to let my wife know the consequences of doing this. Oh. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang had a look of resentment as she ate. Her eyes fell on the guy opposite her, who was proud of himself. Wife, today's dinner didn't taste good? How about we eat something else? For example, this afternoon. Chapter 52:15. Even though Chu Yifeng tried to prevent the news of Chu Yingming's foundation being damaged from spreading, Many people already knew about it back in the immortal cloud secret realm. So the speed at which the news spread was extremely fast. In an instant, many people were waiting to see Chu Yingming make a fool of himself. As the young master of the family, his future was limitless. Yet because of this, his path was completely cut short. Especially when the family that was his enemy wantonly spread the news, causing the faces of the Chu family to become extremely ugly. However, after Chu Yifeng and Chu Yingming returned to the family, this rumor was completely dispelled. Because, not only was the problem of Chu Yingming's foundation being damaged resolved, his cultivation even broke through 2 levels. This made everyone's jaws drop. It was because of this that they remembered the Di family's kindness even more deeply. Nangong family. In a short period of time, the Nangong family had already invited many famous doctors to treat Nangong Xiaolong. Unfortunately, they were all helpless. There was not even the slightest solution. In this period of time, doctors came in an endless stream. Every day, there would be doctors coming after hearing the news. This period of time has been really interesting. First, we went to the Chu family. Now we came to the Nangong family. It's a pity that this illness is too difficult to treat. Isn't that right? Foundation damage is already extremely difficult to treat. It's just that we can't even find out if he's poisoned. It's really helpless. You guys don't know about this, right? A doctor who had just arrived today couldn't help but say, I just heard that the problem of the Chu family's young master's foundation has been resolved. Following this person's words, all the doctors present were stunned, and a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. Is that true? Of course it's true. This time, he only managed to resolve it after going to the Di family. Foundation damage. Generally speaking, there's no way to resolve it. The man frowned. However, he quickly understood. I heard that Dr. Wu Weiming is a guest doctor of the Di family. No wonder he could resolve it. Dr. Wu's medical skills have always been praised. You guys don't know about this, the new doctor said with a mysterious expression. The new doctor said mysteriously, the person who cured young Master Chu was not Dr. Wu, but the young madam of the Di family, Bailey Hongzhuang. These words could be said to be like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. All the doctors present could not help but be stunned, wondering if they had heard wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang? I've heard that she's a rare genius alchemist among the younger generation, enough to be comparable to Ouyang Jifeng, but I've never heard that she's also a doctor. This news can't be fake. Right now it's spreading like wildfire outside. If you ask me, this Lady Bailey's medical skills are superb. She should be able to cure Nangong Gongzi's poison. The first elder, who happened to pass by, had a change in his expression when he heard the news. Then he quickly left. Patriarch, the family has already invited many doctors, but none of them have any effect. Dr. Nangong had a difficult expression on his face. In my opinion, there are only 2 ways to resolve the problem. The first is to find Dr. Wu Weiming, and the second is to see Bailey Shi. Nangong Yuqing frowned when he heard this. Damn it, Dr. Wu is a member of the Di family. This means that we have no other choice. Chapter 52:16. Nangong Zhengquan helplessly looked at the third elder. Because of this matter, the third elder hadn't been able to rest. Nangong Zhengquan was also helpless about this. At this time, the first elder also walked in. Seeing the helpless Nangong Zhengquan, he looked at the third elder and said, Third elder, I'm afraid there's no other way. What do you mean? The third elder was stunned. His face was filled with confusion. I just received news that Chu Yingming's injuries have been cured. Nangong Yuqing was surprised. Cured? Who cured him? Back in the immortal cloud secret realm, he had seen Chu Yingming's condition. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Chu Yingming to get better. It was the Di family's Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang? Nangong Yuqing raised his voice. She was actually willing to treat Chu Yingming? The first elder nodded. I don't know what exactly happened, but it's the truth. Nangong Zhengquan's face sank. His gaze was distant and complicated. His voice also became heavier. So the Chu family owes the Di family a great debt. I'm afraid that in the future, the Chu family will be on the same side as the Di family. That's right. The first elder sighed. I didn't think that the D family would grasp such an opportunity. Originally, they lost the Xiao family as an ally, so their situation was a bit complicated. Now that they have the Chu family's support, their previous problems are no longer a problem. This Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are really two different people. Nangong Jinquan's deep eyes flashed with a faint light, making it difficult for others to see through him. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are so strong. Since she was the one who poisoned Xiaolong, I'm afraid that others won't be able to cure him. Hearing the first elder's words, everyone fell silent. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang could even solve the problem of her foundation being damaged. This kind of method, others definitely couldn't compare. Third elder's heart sank. So Xiaolong can only go see by Li Shi? Other than that, I'm afraid there's no other way. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen arrived at Ao Lingxiao's residence, Ao Lingxiao had just stopped cultivating. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren also ran over. Ever since they returned, Ao Lingxiao had been in seclusion. They also wanted to know what Ao Lingxiao planned to do next. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appear, Ao Lingxiao was very happy. What brings you all here today? Since we're mainly here to ask about your plans, Li Yundong said. Di Beichen went straight to the point. We've been back for quite some time. When do you plan to return to the Ao clan? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all looked at Ao Lingxiao. As long as the curse was not removed, he would not be able to hold his head high. This basin of dirty water was too hurtful. Thinking back to when they met Ao Lingxiao in the lower realm, they could understand the pain in his heart. I'm fine with anything. Ao Lingxiao looked at Di Beichen. What he needed the most now was a backing. If he went alone, he wouldn't be able to take back the clan. Ao Zhengquang was able to do such a thing back then, so he must have many trusted aides in the clan. If he went alone, his life would be in danger before he could even return to the clan. Chapter 52:17. Lingxiao, in my opinion, the best time to go to the Ao clan is when you have the confidence to defeat Ao Zhengquang. Di Beichen's eyes were deep and serious. They were naturally Ao Lingxiao's backing. As long as Ao Lingxiao wanted to go back, they would definitely go with him. Not only them, but even Lin Taxing and the others had repeatedly emphasized before leaving that if he wanted to go to the Ao clan, they must go with him. However, in his opinion, this was not a problem. The most important thing was that Ao Lingxiao could defeat Ao Zhengquang. Only in this way could he convince everyone, and it would be more justifiable for him to take back the Ao clan. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Ao Lingxiao quickly calmed down and understood what he meant. You're right. I must have the ability to defeat Ao Zhengquang. Thinking back, Ao Zhengquang had taken everything from him. Now he had to take it back with his own hands. Of course, he needed the help of Di Beichen and the others. More importantly, he had to defeat Ao Zhengquang fair and square. Only in this way would his retaking be meaningful. Otherwise, in the eyes of others, he was just relying on others and not having true strength. Lingxiao, are you confident now? Ziren looked concerned. If it was in the past, it would not be a problem for Ao Lingxiao to defeat Ao Zhengquang. However, due to the regression of his strength, Ao Lingxiao had been working hard on his cultivation. He did not know if he could catch up. Ao Lingxiao's eyes dimmed. There is still a gap, but I will catch up soon. Previously in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, he had some understanding of Ao Zhengquang's strength. Currently there was still a gap between them, but the gap was not big. As long as he worked hard for a few more days, he would definitely catch up. In the past, I was not confident that I could catch up in a short time. However, after taking the Immortal Elixir, my aptitude has been improved. Now my cultivation speed is much faster than before. That's true. Ziren also chuckled. The Immortal Elixir is indeed a first-class treasure. My cultivation speed is much faster than before. When Ziren then looked at Di Beichen. Now I finally understand why you were able to break through so quickly. The effects of the heavenly mandate body must be even better than the immortal spirit pills. It's really enviable. Di Beichen smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Shangguan Yingying then said, So Lingxiao still can't return to the Ao clan for the time being? Ao Lingxiao nodded slightly. I'm afraid I'll have to go into seclusion for a while. Hong Zhuang, do you have to go to the Bailey family? Shang Guanningying's eyes flickered with curiosity. That Nangong Xiaolong probably can't wait to see Miss Shi right now, right? I think so. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I heard that the Nangong family has invited many doctors to help, but none of them have any effect. I heard that they have given up. That's for sure. Who else can break the spell if you're the one doing it? Sheng Guanningying said matter-of-factly. That guy deserves it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked back. Bewitching, what do you think? We can go to the Bailey family first and settle this matter before heading to the Ao clan. Bewitching then looked at Ao Lingxiao. Lingxiao, what do you think? I'm fine with it. Ao Lingxiao hurriedly said. I'm already very grateful that you guys are willing to help me. Moreover, I do need some time to go into seclusion. Chapter 52:18. The Bailey family. Ever since she returned from the Immortal Cloud secret territory, Bailey Union's status in the Bailey family has been rising rapidly. Normally, as a direct descendant of the Bailey family, her status in the Bailey family was not bad. However, after what happened this time, she became the leader of the younger generation. On one hand, it was because of her that the descendants of the Bailey family were able to enter the Immortal Cloud secret territory. On the other hand, everyone was certain that she and Di Xiaofeng would become a couple. Regarding this point, her feelings were rather complicated. She understood that Di Xiaofeng was interested in her. However, regarding the final result, she could not be sure. Therefore, when everyone was discussing this matter, she maintained her silence. Bai Li Fan, the head of the Bailey family, was in a good mood. During this trip to the Immortal Cloud secret territory, the Bailey family was also the biggest winner. Yunyan, I heard that you received an inheritance from the Immortal Cloud secret territory? Bai Li Fan grinned at Bailey Yunyan. Since you are so lucky, you must train hard in the future. Feeling the friendliness of the head of the house, Bailey Yunyan was surprised. Her beautiful face revealed a joyful expression. Head of the house, the inheritance I received this time was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. Because of this, I was lucky enough to receive it. Bailey Union's face was calm. She knew very well that if it weren't for this reason, there would be so many talented cultivators who entered the Immortal Cloud secret territory. She wouldn't have received the inheritance. The inheritance left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family? Bai Li Fan's eyes flashed with surprise. This inheritance was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. Then this is even more suitable for you. This is a good opportunity. You must seize it. Bai Li Fan smiled. Bailey Union's performance in the Bailey family has always been great. Today's performance made him even more satisfied. He had the intention of training her well, and hoped that Bailey Union would achieve great results in the future. Thank you, head of the house. I will work hard. Bailey Union smiled. Even though the Bailey family has always been kind to her, today's friendliness still surprised her. In the next moment, Bailey Union took out a recording crystal and said, Family head, this is the inheritance crystal I obtained from the senior. He said that only you can see this recording crystal. Looking at the recording crystal in front of him, Bai Li Fan's eyes lit up. The Bailey family used to be an extremely powerful family, but it was a pity that they lost their inheritance and gradually declined until they were in their current state. Fortunately, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. In the end, it was passed down. In fact, every generation of patriarch hoped to make the Bailey family strong again. However, it was not easy to do so, and they had not succeeded for so many years. It would be great if this recording crystal contained a lost legacy of the clan. Thinking of this, Bai Li Fan could not help but feel excited. If this was really the case, then the rise of the Bailey family was just around the corner. After receiving the recording crystal, Bailey Union and the others tactfully took their leave. Although they did not know what the ancestors of the Bailey family said in the recording crystal, since only the head of the house could see it, it must be something very important. After everyone left, Bai Li Fan immediately checked the recording crystal. Chapter 52:19. The next day, Bailey Yunyan went to see Bai Li Fan early in the morning. She had always kept Bailey Hongzhuang's matter in her heart. After returning, she wanted to check the genealogy. However, the genealogy was not something that just anyone could look at. She needed the family head's permission. Yesterday's situation was obviously not suitable for her to ask about in detail. Hence, she came again today. Yunyan, what's the matter? When Bai Li Fan saw Bailey Yunyan appear, he knew that she definitely had something to say. Family head, I'm here to ask for your permission to look at the genealogy, Bailey Yunyan said bluntly. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan frowned. Look at the genealogy? Why do you want to look at the genealogy all of a sudden? Family head, do you know the D family's young madam, Bailey Hongzhuang? I know. Bai Li Fan nodded. Putting aside Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding performance in the pill refining competition, now that she had cured Chu Yingming's illness, she was in the limelight. Now, there was probably no one who did not know of Bailey Hongzhuang's name. At the same time, he also knew that the quota for their family to enter the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm was given to them by Bailey Hongzhuang. Hence, he was also very grateful towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey's surname is also Bailey. It's said that her elders used to be from the upper realm. Hence, she wants me to check the genealogy to see if there are any of her elders. Bailey Yunyan did not keep this a secret. In fact, this was not a big deal. You mean that Miss Bailey might be from our family? A trace of shock appeared in Bai Li Fan's eyes. But more than that, he was pleasantly surprised. Even though he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's surname was also Bailey, he had never thought of this possibility. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang asked this question, it might really be possible. If all of this was true, it would be great news. Bailey Yunyan nodded. That seems to be the case. Miss Hongzhuang is very concerned about this matter. Then I'll go with you to check it out. Bai Li Fan was also very concerned about this matter. May I know which name Miss Hongzhuang is looking for? Bailey Jingyu, Bailey Yunyan said. Miss Hongzhuang asked me if there was such a clan head. Patriarch? Bai Li Fan was surprised. That makes it easier to investigate. That's right. Bailey Yunyan was very sure that when Bailey Hongzhuang said this name, she remembered it clearly. Soon, Bai Li Fan and Bailey Yunyan began to flip through the family tree. The Bailey family had been passed down for many years, and the list of descendants was astonishing. Even if they directly targeted the head of the family, it was still not something that could be finished in a short time. Because Bailey Hongzhuang did not mention the specific year, the two could only start from the beginning to the middle. Yunyan, what did Miss Hongzhuang tell you? Bai Li Fan asked as he looked through the family tree. She said that she was not sure, but the elders had told her about this matter. So she only knew that there was a clan head named Bailey Jingyu. If we can find it in our family tree, it means that we are of the same lineage. Bai Li Fan nodded slightly, and did not continue to ask. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, it was already good that she knew this. She probably did not know anything else. Chapter 52:20. Bai Li Fan had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang was a member of their clan. However, as time passed, his heart sank. It seemed that he had been indulging in the wildest of fantasies. There were many people with the same surname in this world. They might not necessarily be of the same bloodline. Bailey Yunyan also sighed. If she could, she really wanted to be sisters with Bailey Hongzhuang. It was really a pity, however. Just as they thought that it was impossible, Bailey Yunyan's gaze suddenly fell on the words clan head in the genealogy. Bailey Jingyu. Bailey Yunyan rubbed her eyes and carefully looked at the words. She was worried that her eyes were playing tricks on her. However, after carefully checking a few times, she found that she was not mistaken. A surprised smile appeared on her face. Clan head, I found it. There really is a clan head, Bailey Jingyu. Just as Bailey Yunyan thought that the clan head would be as excited as she was, Bai Li Fan's gaze was fixed on the genealogy in his hands. His eyes were filled with shock. Clan head. Bailey Yunyan looked at Bai Li Fan in confusion. She did not understand what had happened to the clan head. Clan head, I found Bailey Jingyu. Bailey Yunyan emphasized again. However, Bai Li Fan still did not answer. He only stared at the genealogy in shock. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the shock. Seeing this, Bailey Yunyan could not help but follow Bai Li Fan's gaze. She was also dumbfounded. This was because she saw two words on the genealogy, Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Yunyan's face was filled with disbelief. Our ancestor actually had a clan head named Bailey Hongzhuang? Bai Li Fan finally recovered from his shock. He reached out and took the genealogy from Bailey Yunyan. After carefully comparing it, he suddenly realized that Bailey Jingyu and Bailey Hongzhuang were actually grandfather and grandson. How could there be such a coincidence? Bailey Yunyan was also puzzled. This was too much of a coincidence. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang's name the same as her ancestor's name? Was it just a coincidence? Bai Li Fan couldn't help but recall the information he had heard in the memory crystal. After connecting all the dots, he suddenly understood everything. Yunyan, I'm afraid this Miss Bailey is closely related to our family. Perhaps she is the hope for our family to rise again. Hearing Bai Li Fan's words, Bailey Yunyan was stunned. Patriarch, what do you mean? Do you remember the recording crystal you gave me yesterday? I remember. The recording crystal sent me a message. In our ancestors' generation, there was a prophecy master who predicted that a woman would return to the 100 Lane clan and bring our clan back to greatness. She holds the true inheritance of the Bailey family in her hands. Bai Li Fan's gaze was deep and complicated. When he had received this news yesterday, he was also extremely shocked. He only felt that it was too hard to believe. However, after connecting all the dots, it all seemed so natural. It was as if everything had been arranged this way. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang. These two names were the same. He did not believe that it was a coincidence. How could all these things coincide so coincidentally? There was only one possibility. Chapter 52-21. After hearing Bai Li Fan's words, Bailey Yunyan's eyes widened. This news was simply too shocking. The Bailey family's inheritance has been lost for so many years, and they have long given up on finding it. However, she never thought that the inheritance she had received would contain such a prophecy. However, she had heard of the power of a prophet. Since it was a recording crystal left behind by the ancestor, it could not be false. However, the fact that it had the same name was simply too shocking. Yunyan, if you have the chance, you must invite Lady Hongzhuang back. Bai Li Fan looked at Bailey Yunyan with a burning gaze. The events of the past 2 days had filled him with endless hope. As the master of the house, his greatest wish was for the house to become stronger. Now that the ancestor had said that a woman would bring them hope, how could he not be excited? Bailey Yunyan nodded dazedly. It took her a while to recover from her astonishment. Don't worry, master. Hongzhuang had said that she would come. The truth of Shier's matter has come to light. Nangong Xiaolong will come and apologize. When the time comes, Hongzhuang and the others will come as well. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan's eyes lit up. That's good. You should pay more attention to Shier. She has the best relationship with you. Master, Shier had been muddle-headed and had mistakenly believed Nangong Xiaolong. Now she is filled with regret. Can you forgive her? Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with sincerity and hope. Although Bailey she had returned, she had not dared to see the master, nor had she dared to ask what she would do after this matter was resolved. After leaving the house, she had no one to rely on. It was far too desolate. Forget it. What's done is done. Bai Li Fan slowly spoke. You can let Xia relax. After this matter is resolved, pretend that nothing happened and focus on your cultivation. Thank you, master. Bailey Yunyan's face was filled with joy. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air, was finally at ease. Right now, she was simply too grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If it weren't for them, it probably wouldn't have been so easy to get Shier back. Everything was finally going to clear up. She also began to hope that the woman mentioned by the old ancestor was Bailey Hongzhuang. She felt that after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, their situation began to improve. While Bailey Hongzhuang was looking forward to it, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also preparing to go to the Bailey family. Lingxiao, are you not coming with us this time? Bewitching looked at Ao Lingxiao and asked. Ao Lingxiao nodded slightly. Right now the most important thing for me is to cultivate. Therefore, I won't be going with you this time. Ever since his last conversation with Bewitching, he understood that if he wanted to take back his family, the most important thing was his own cultivation. Therefore, right now, he only wanted to spend all his energy on cultivation. He didn't want to waste his energy on other matters. Alright then, you can cultivate peacefully in the house. If there's anything, you can look for Zhais or Howen. They will help you. Bewitching had already guessed this before, so he had already informed the two of them beforehand. Ao Lingxiao was pleasantly surprised when he heard this. He smiled and said, I didn't expect you to be so considerate. Chapter 52-22. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Ao Lingxiao smiled. He had already made up his mind, and had been staying in the room to cultivate, while waiting for everyone to come back. Then, Bewitching lowered his voice, and whispered a few words in his ear, before leaving with everyone. Xiaofeng, are you considered a son-in-law now? When Xiren looked at Di Xiaofeng with a teasing expression. Tell me honestly, have you been to the Bailey family before? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. I haven't been there before, but seeing how familiar you are with it, you must have been very fast when you pursued Ying, right? Of course. When Xiren raised his eyebrows proudly. Ying is my family's child bride. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was stunned and almost choked. Really? Ying is a child bride? In the next moment, Shangguan Ying grabbed Xiren's ear. What did you just say? Say it again? Hehe wife, I was just joking. When Xiren smiled and said to Di Xiaofeng, I was joking, don't take it seriously. I thought it was true. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. He actually believed when Xiren's words, and thought that when Xiren was just lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the group of people laughing in the distance, and couldn't help but chuckle. By the way, Bewitching, what did you say to Ling Xiao before you left? She saw clearly before and didn't overlook Bewitching's little action. I just told him to be more careful in the family. If there's nothing, it's best not to come out. Bewitching smiled faintly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, and quickly understood the deeper meaning of this. So far, they haven't found the Jun family's spy in the family. Even if they already had the possibility in their hearts, they had been carefully observing since returning to the family, but didn't find anything. Therefore, they were unable to determine whether their previous judgment was true or not. Since Ling Xiao has chosen to go into seclusion, I'm sure he won't be coming out anytime soon. That way we can rest assured. Bewitching nodded slightly. Indeed, I have already told father about this matter. Father will also pay more attention to it. He wouldn't be worried if it were someone else staying in the family. However, the relationship between the Ao family and the Jun family was already very good. Once Ao Ling Xiao returned to take back the Ao family, he would definitely become the Jun family's enemy. This matter was unfavorable to the Jun family, so he had no choice but to guard against it. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It seemed that Bewitching had already arranged everything. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were happily heading towards the Bailey family, the Nangong family was in a different situation. Do we still have to head to the Bailey family? Nangong Xiaolong's expression was extremely ugly. If possible, he really did not want to go over and be humiliated. Over the past few days, his situation had become a joke in everyone's eyes. Even if it was his family, he could feel that although they didn't show anything on the surface, the ridicule in their eyes made him understand that he had become a laughing stock. Unfortunately, he had no way to change this situation. Chapter 52-23. None of the doctors are able to cure your condition. If we don't go find Bailey Hongzhuang, we won't be able to cure you. Nangong Yuqing sighed, his slightly bloated face full of helplessness. Compared to being humiliated, your life is more important. As for the rest, it won't be too late to get it back in the future. I'm now a cripple. There's no way I'll be able to vent my anger. Nangong Xiaolong's face was pale. My wife is also making a fuss about leaving. What do you think I should do? His wife was already very sad when he became like this, but at least she didn't choose to leave. However, after finding out that he was in this state because of his love affair, the situation changed. Now, in addition to worrying about his own affairs, He also had to think of ways to coax his wife. It wasn't because of anything else, but because he was already a laughingstock. If his wife ran away again, he really wouldn't be able to go out and meet people. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing's eyes flashed with a complicated light. Even if you ask me, I wouldn't know. No matter what, since she's already your wife, she'll always be your wife. If she stirs up trouble, you'll have to be firm. Nangong Xiaolong nodded slightly. That's right, if she dares to continue causing trouble, I won't let her off easily. Now that he's a cripple, even if he can't have sex, at least he still has his cultivation. As long as he's a top cultivator, he can't let others look down on him. Let's go, we'll go see the patriarch first. Nangong Yuqing said after seeing that Nangong Xiaolong was almost done packing. Nangong family's discussion hall. Nangong Zhengquan and the elders gathered together again. Soon, it would be time for Nangong Xiaolong to meet with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This meant that it was time for Nangong Xiaolong to set off. Now that they've tried everything but failed to detoxify Nangong Xiaolong, this was the only way to save his life. Patriarch, Xiaolong will definitely be humiliated on this trip. Do you really want him to apologize to that slut Bailey Shi? The third elder's face was filled with unwillingness. He only had one son, Nangong Xiaolong, and he had always doted on him. However, it was because of that damned woman that Xiaolong had ended up in this state. Now he even had to apologize to her. What kind of humiliation was this? Hearing this, Nangong Zhengquan felt a bit helpless. Third elder, you know the current situation very well. Apart from this, there's no other way. Why don't I go with Xiaolong? Third elder pondered. Third elder, in my opinion, it's better for Yuqing to accompany Xiaolong on this trip. Nangong Zhengquan's expression turned serious. This is a matter between the younger generation. I believe that Yuqing and Xiaolong will be able to resolve it. Following Nangong Zhengquan's words, the first elder added, that's right. If you first elder are to get involved in the matters of the younger generation, things will become complicated. First elder, now that things have come to this, there's no need for you to be so angry. Don't tell me you still don't believe in Xiaolong's abilities? The elders all tried to persuade him. This matter was related to the reputation of the clan. Chapter 52-24. Seeing that all the elders were against his decision, the third elder had no choice but to give up on his plan. He really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to make trouble. The way Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did this time was really too much in his opinion. However, he also understood that if he insisted on going when no one supported him, he would be asking for trouble. I understand. I won't go. The third elder sighed and said. Hearing this, Nangong Zhengquan and the others felt relieved. If the third elder went, they really couldn't afford to lose face. When Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing came to the hall together and heard this conversation, they felt helpless. Even if Nangong Xiaolong himself didn't want to go to the Bailey family, he didn't want his father to go with him. Father, leave this matter to me, there won't be a problem. The third elder nodded slightly. Then you must be careful on this trip. If you get bullied, you must endure it. Revenge is a dish best served cold. I understand, father. You can rest assured. Nangong Xiaolong's eyes flashed with a firm light. Now that he has become like this, he has been ridiculed by everyone in a short period of time. His ability to endure was much stronger than before. Even if he went to the 100 Lane clan, he would only be ridiculed like this. No matter how bad it was, it couldn't be that bad. However, as long as he survives, he will find a way to get revenge. Seeing that Nangong Xiaolong wasn't discouraged by this matter, Nangong Zhengquan's face showed a satisfied expression. He looked at Nangong Yuqing and said, Yuqing, you will accompany Xiaolong this time. If there is anything, you must act according to the circumstances. Yes, father. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others rode on Di Xiaofeng's flying magic tool. Their speed was also very fast. Since Di Beichen returned to the family, Di Yujue also gave Di Beichen a flying magic tool, but Di Beichen hasn't used it yet. This time, they were going to the Bailey family. Nangong Yuqing and the others would also go. In order to ensure their safety, it was best to go together. Xiaofeng, you haven't been to the Bailey family before. You won't lead the wrong way, right? Xiren liked to joke around when he had nothing to do. As they got closer and closer to the Bailey family, everyone stopped cultivating. According to Di Xiaofeng's instructions, they should arrive today. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng speechlessly glanced at Xiren and said, "Don't worry, I've already confirmed this map repeatedly. There's definitely no mistake. It's been a while since we last met. You must have missed Miss Yun Yan." Xiren smiled faintly. "Ever since I came to the upper realm, I've only been to the Di family. I wonder if every family's layout is similar? That might not be the case." Emperor Xiaofeng slowly said, "Some clans have similar arrangements, but some clans don't have such a clear distinction between direct and branch clans. Our family is divided like this because there are many cultivators. According to my judgment, the children of the Bailey family will gather together." Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Obviously, the layout of a family was related to the size of the family. Compared to the Di family, the Bailey family was naturally much smaller. Then the Jun family, Xiao family, and other clans have similar arrangements to the Di family. Chapter 52-25. Just as everyone was discussing, the flying instrument finally came to a stop. In their line of sight, there was nothing but emptiness in front of them. There was nothing special about it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were familiar with this. This was because the Di family's gate was the same. It was obviously a smokescreen. Di Xiaofeng held a shiny crystal in his hand and said, "This is the crystal that Yin Yin gave me before we left. Once we reach the Bailey family's gate, this crystal will show us." In the next moment, Di Xiaofeng crushed the crystal in his hand. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. However, before they could ask what was going on, two figures had already appeared in everyone's line of sight. The two young cultivators looked at Di Beichun and the others. After a glance, they had already guessed their identity. They immediately asked, "Excuse me, are you Di Gongzi?" "That's right." Hearing this, the two cultivators were pleasantly surprised. "The family head has already told us that Di Xiaofeng will be here in 2 days and asked us to wait for you." The faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also showed smiles as they followed behind the two cultivators and approached the Bailey clan. After everyone walked a few steps inside, everything in front of them suddenly became clear. Just as Di Xiaofeng said, the Bailey family was much smaller than the Di family. However, it was still a large family. After all, the Bailey family had been around for so many years and had a certain amount of history. However, the Bailey family was not divided into different parts like the Di family. Instead, they were all gathered together and looked very lively. As they walked closer, the Bailey family's cultivators all looked at them with curiosity and surprise. "Look, that must be the Di family, right? Wow, the Di family's cultivators are too good looking. Look, the man in blue is very handsome. The man in white next to him is also very handsome. However, the man in black is also very handsome. Didn't you guys notice the white-haired man? That's a real monster." The women of the Bailey family stood rooted to the ground. At this moment, they couldn't care less about being reserved. This kind of eye-catching scene was not something they could see often. As when Xiren listened to the discussions of the crowd, his gaze involuntarily swept over Di Beichun and the others. Indeed, these fellows all had devilish looks. Normally, he thought of himself as a handsome man, but it was obvious that there was still a gap between him and these guys. "Sigh, I suddenly miss Ling Xiao. At least I still have Ling Xiao to keep me company at this time." As Xiren's voice fell, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Come on, at this point, you won't have a chance to turn things around in this lifetime. Ling Xiao as well. Why must he go into seclusion at such a time?" When Xiren's face was full of resentment, he then looked at Bai Shi. "Even a demonic beast in human form is so devilishly handsome. I really don't know what to say." Like master, like contracted beast, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were already so devilish. Therefore, Bai Shi was just as devilish. Bai Shi glanced at Xiren and said, "Big brother one, you're actually more handsome than big brother Ao. Is this a compliment?" Chapter 52-26. The news of Di Xiaofeng's group's arrival quickly spread throughout the Bailey family. Bailey Yunyan was the first to receive the news, and immediately ran out. She knew that Di Xiaofeng and Nangong Yuqing had agreed on a time, so she had been waiting for it as the time drew closer and closer. Today she had finally waited for it. Bai Li Fan and the other elders also rushed out after hearing the news. The Di family's young master and Lin family's young master had personally come, so they naturally had to welcome them. Moreover, the other party had come for their family's matters. No matter how they looked at it, they were full of gratitude. When Bailey Yunyan arrived, she found that the family head and the other elders had already arrived and were enthusiastically welcoming Di Xiaofeng's group. Young Master Lin, Young Master Di, our Bailey family is really honored by your presence. Bai Li Fan's face was filled with joy, but his eyes quietly fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was very likely to be the one destined for him, he had been looking forward to seeing Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was standing beside Di Beichen, so it was easy to guess her identity. Bailey family head is too polite. Di Xiaofeng cupped his hands. We took the liberty to come and disturb you this time. We are very sorry. Young Master Di, what are you saying? This trip to the Immortal Cloud secret realm is all thanks to your care. Moreover, this time you are also here to help Shi'er seek justice. As the family head, I should be ashamed. I am really grateful to you, Bai Li Fan said. Yes, it is all thanks to young Master Di's help. Otherwise, our family wouldn't be able to achieve such results. If there is a chance, you must come often. The elders of the Bai Li clan also echoed, their eyes full of sincerity. They were grateful to Di Beichen and the others from the bottom of their hearts. After feeling the Bailey family's sincerity and welcome, Di Beichen's group was in a good mood. Bailey Hongzhuang could also feel Bai Li Fan's gaze on her, and immediately had some guesses in her mind. She clearly noticed that Bai Li Fan was paying attention to her. She guessed that Bailey Yunyan had already checked the family records, but she didn't know the results. At the same time, Bailey Yunyan's figure appeared in everyone's sight. Yunyan. Seeing Bailey Yunyan's appearance, Di Xiaofeng's face immediately revealed a smile. And obediently stood by Bailey Yunyan's side. And Bailey Fan and the others glanced at Bailey Yunyan and Di Xiaofeng. They already knew that these two were in love with each other. They had their hands as to support. And it would be the best outcome if the two of them could really become husband and wife. Yunyan, you are most familiar with young Master Di. I will leave the arrangements to you. You must treat them well. Bai Li Fan smiled and instructed. Yes, family head. Bai Li Fan then looked at Di Beichen's group again. You must be very tired after traveling for so many days. We have already prepared a place for you to stay. Why don't you take a rest and have dinner together later? Thank you. Di Beichen cupped his hands. Chapter 52-27. After Bai Li Fan and the others left, the atmosphere became more relaxed. Even if the Bailey family was not as powerful as the Di family, they were still elders and had some restraints. Most importantly, Di Xiaofeng was interested in Bailey Yunyan, so they had to pay more attention to his attitude. I'll take you to rest now. Bailey Yunyan's lips curled into a faint smile. Her gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but she did not dare to look at Di Xiaofeng. Noticing Bailey Yunyan's reaction, Di Xiaofeng could not help but ask with a smile. Yunyan, why do you seem to be avoiding me? I'm not. Bailey Yunyan retorted. I just feel that you must be tired after being on the road for so long. Bailey Hongzhuang and Sheng Guaningning looked at each other. Obviously, Bailey Yunyan was shy as a girl. The more she did not look at Di Xiaofeng, the more she cared about him. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly, but his gaze was fixed on Bailey Yunyan. Not long after, they arrived at the place the Bailey family had prepared for them. With one look, they knew that they had put in a lot of effort. It was clean, spacious and bright. It was obviously specially prepared for them. You guys are really considerate. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Ever since the family head knew that you guys were coming, he was very attentive. If it were not for your help, we would not have been able to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm, and have such results. This is the first time our family has achieved such good results. The family head and all the elders are very happy. Bailey Yunyan seemed to have thought of how happy Bai Li Fan and the others were before, and her face bloomed with radiance. She clearly remembered how happy her family members were when they heard the news. As a member of the Bailey family, she was very proud of it. If that's the case, Xiaofeng can rest assured. He should be able to get the approval of his future father-in-law. Ziran raised his eyebrows and looked at Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan mockingly. Indeed, Di Beichen nodded and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, you should take credit for this. Bailey Yunyan's cheeks immediately turned red after hearing everyone's words. Her eyes flickered as she didn't know where to look. Emperor Xiaofeng, quickly tell them to stop talking nonsense. However, Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Yunyan, I also want to know if I've been recognized. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan's face turned even redder. She angrily glared at Di Xiaofeng and ran out of the house. I'm too lazy to talk to you. You guys should rest first. I'll come back later. Seeing Bailey Yunyan run away, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but chase her to the door. However, Bailey Yunyan had already run out. Since this was the Bailey family, he did not continue to chase after them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Di Xiaofeng's helpless expression and couldn't help but laugh. Although Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan hadn't broken the window paper to this extent, they all knew that this marriage couldn't run away. Di Xiaofeng was a person who was infatuated with love. For so many years, no woman could move him, only Bailey Yunyan. Now that Bailey Yunyan's feelings were very obvious, it naturally wasn't a problem. Chapter 52-28. Hongzhuang, don't worry. Since we're already here, we'll know the result soon enough. Sheng Guaniying said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, a faint smile on her lips. She really wasn't in a hurry. On one hand, it was just as Sheng Guaniying said. On the other hand, she had already guessed part of the answer from Patriarch Bailey's expression. After leaving the house, Bailey Yunyan continued to walk forward. Even though she had walked quite a distance, her face was still burning. It didn't look like it was going to get any better. Yunyan, where are you going? Suddenly, a voice called out to Bailey Yunyan, causing her to stop. Xier. Bailey Yunyan looked at Bailey Shi in surprise. When did you come? When did I come? Bailey Shi raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't I be the one asking you this? I had to walk over right in front of you. But what were you thinking about? You didn't even notice me. Bailey Yunyan paused and quickly said, It's nothing. I just heard from the elders that Patriarch told you to take good care of Di Gongzi and the others. Why did you run out on your own? I just remembered that there are some things I need to do, so I wanted to go back. So it's like this. Bailey Shi smiled and immediately took Bailey Yunyan's hand. How can other things be more important than taking good care of Di Gongzi and the others? Patriarch has already said that your task for the next few days is to take good care of the guests. It just so happens that I also want to go and thank them. Come with me. I don't know what to say by myself. How about we go later? Bailey Yunyan was in a difficult position. Recalling the scene just now, she didn't want to go back and be teased again. What later? Since you're already here, let's go together. Bailey Shi didn't give Bailey Yunyan a chance to refuse, and pulled her towards Di Xiaofeng's residence. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were chatting in full swing when they suddenly heard footsteps outside the door. Everyone immediately quieted down. At this time, who could it be? Soon they saw Bailey Shi at the front and Bailey Yunyan at the side, whose face was still red with embarrassment. Seeing this, everyone chuckled. They knew that Bailey Yunyan was easily embarrassed, so they didn't tease her anymore. Miss Xier. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bailey Shi with a smile. After not seeing her for some time, Bailey Shi's situation was clearly much better than before. Whether it was her essence qi or anything else, she had regained her luster. She was no longer the woman who had lost all hope and was only looking for death. Miss Hongzhuang, it's great to see you again. Upon seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Shi became enthusiastic. Thank you for saving me back then. If it weren't for you, I would be dead by now. You're too polite. Let bygones be bygones. It's great that you're able to move on. I was too stupid in the past. I actually tried to kill myself for a man like that. Bailey Shi's eyes were filled with complex emotions. If she could, she really wanted everything to start over. Then she definitely wouldn't have fallen for Nangong Xiaolong. In the past, she didn't know what true love was. She only thought that ignorance was love. But after knowing that Di Xiaofeng was serious about Bailey Yunyan, she understood. Chapter 52-29. In terms of identity, status, and appearance, no matter from which angle, Di Xiaofeng was much better than Nangong Xiaolong. If she wanted to be with Nangong Xiaolong, then the difference between Bailey Yunyan and Di Xiaofeng was even greater. However, Di Xiaofeng had always protected Bailey Yunyan and was willing to express his feelings in front of so many people. Comparing the two, the difference was huge. She was very envious of Yunyan. At the same time, she was sincerely happy for her. At least Yunyan found someone who was truly good to her. She wasn't like her, who was in the wrong. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were worried about Bailey Shi's situation. Although Bailey Shi's situation had improved when she left, it wasn't something that could be solved in a short period of time, unless she encountered some kind of opportunity that would make her feel enlightened, and that everything in the past was nothing. However, seeing Bailey Shi's state of mind, they understood that she had let it go. It's good that you can see past it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Thinking back to Bailey Shi's zombie-like appearance, this was the real her. That's right, that Nangong Xiaolong is scum. Shang Guanyin couldn't help but say. There are many good men in this world. You will definitely find one. Hearing this, Bailey Shi's eyes flashed with sadness. With her current state, how could she hope to find a good man? She had already given up on this plan. Shang Guanyin also saw through Bailey Shi's thoughts and said, Miss Xier, don't give up hope because of what happened before. Those who truly like you won't care about these things. I believe that you will definitely meet a man who is true to you. Bailey Shi looked at Shang Guanyin in surprise. Then a smile appeared on her face. I hope so. In 2 days, Nangong Xiaolong will be here. Di Xiaofeng slowly said. Thinking back to Nangong Xiaolong's proud expression when he mentioned Bailey Shi, he wanted to teach that damn guy a lesson. However, he had to admit that Lin Qianqian's kick was indeed powerful. This was the best punishment for Nangong Xiaolong. Hearing this, Bailey Shi's expression couldn't help but change a little. Actually, I'm already fine. He came I. Seeing Bailey Shi's conflicted expression, everyone immediately understood what she was thinking. She probably didn't want to see Nangong Xiaolong again. After all, the other party had hurt her so deeply. In the past, she had indeed hoped that Nangong Xiaolong would come to see her. But now, she did not want to see Nangong Xiaolong. From the mouths of Yin Yen and the others, she learned that she was just one of Nangong Xiaolong's lovers. However, she still believed him and gave him her heart. Now that he thought about it, it was really a joke. Xier, don't think about anything else. Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but say. This time, he came to apologize to you. When the time comes, you don't have to be polite. That's right, Nangong Xiaolong is scum. It's only right to teach him a lesson, Di Xiaofeng said. Because of Nangong Xiaolong, Bailey Shi's life had been greatly affected. How could she just let it go? Chapter 52-30. But when I see him, I don't even know what to say. Bailey Shi bit her lip, her pretty face full of complicated emotions. She couldn't see past it before, but now she did. She felt like she was a joke in front of Nangong Xiaolong, so she didn't want to see him again. What are you afraid of? Shang Guanyin raised her eyebrows. He's the one who came to apologize. His life is in your hands. You don't have to say anything, just listen to his apology. If you're still angry, then don't give him the antidote, and let him perish on his own. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded as Shang Guanying's voice fell. The reason why they let Nangong Xiaolong come this time was to let this guy know his mistake, and let Bailey Shi let go of this matter. Ying is right. After Nangong Xiaolong comes, you can vent your anger however you want. Don't think that you can't raise your head in front of him, because of what happened in the past. Now that guy is inhumane in comparison, he's now everyone's laughing stock. Speaking of Nangong Xiaolong's miserable state, Xiren's face was calm. Even as a man, he couldn't stand Nangong Xiaolong's actions anymore. He deserved to be taught a lesson. Miss Shi, don't be afraid, we're all here. Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up. Bailey, she looked up at everyone. Seeing that everyone trusted her, she nodded seriously. I understand. Seeing this, everyone was relieved. At night, the Bailey family specially prepared an open-air banquet to welcome Bewitching and the others. The afterglow of the moonlight scattered on the ground, revealing a trace of silver, hazy and tranquil beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat in their seats, watching the performance of the singers in the middle, their faces full of smiles. Honored guests, you've come all the way here just to help Shi vent her anger. I'm really grateful. Bai Li Fan picked up his wine glass and said, Here's a toast to you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all stood up. Master Bailey is too kind. We are the ones who are grateful for your hospitality. When Bai Li Fan and the others saw that Bewitching and the others were so approachable, they felt a burst of joy in their hearts. One had to know that the difference in power between the two clans was not small. Usually, the disciples of the great aristocratic families would not pay much attention to them. Previously, they were quite worried about this. Fortunately, such a situation did not happen, so they were completely relieved. There were many young cultivators from the Bailey family who attended the banquet. Apparently, they were all direct descendants of the family. Yun Yen, I am so envious of you, to be able to receive young Master D's love. When the news first spread, a group of young female disciples were filled with envy towards Bailey Yun Yen. Now that they had seen Di Xiaofeng, their envy was even stronger. Bailey Yun Yen had a smile on her face as her gaze fell on Di Xiaofeng, who was not far away. She was also very glad that she was able to meet Di Xiaofeng. Yun Yen, there are quite a few young masters here. Can you introduce them to us? Maybe we have a chance too? Chapter 5231. Regardless of his status and background, just his outstanding appearance alone was enough to move the hearts of many women. That's Bewitching, he's already married. When Xiren beside him is also married. Facing everyone's fervent gazes, Bailey Yun Yen couldn't help but explain. Other than them, there's also that white-haired man? I've never seen such a good-looking person in my life. Bailey Yao Er's eyes flashed with admiration. From the first time she saw this white-haired man, her heart was already moved. Di Xiaofeng and the others were all very handsome, but the first one she noticed was this white-haired man. This was a kind of soul-stirring beauty. Even if it was just a glance, it seemed like it could make her heart stop beating. That's right, who is this person? Following everyone's gaze, Bailey Yun Yen's eyes fell on Bai Li Yanche. In fact, when she saw Bai Li Yanche for the first time today, she was also stunned. It was also her first time seeing such an exotic man. However, after knowing that Bai Li Yanche was Bailey Hongzhuang's little brother, she understood. He is Bai Li Yanche, Hongzhuang's little brother. Hearing this, Bailey Yao Er's eyes lit up. Then is he married? I don't think so. Bailey Yun Yen couldn't help but look at Bailey Shi and confirm. We didn't hear that Bai Li Yanche is married today, right? Indeed we didn't. Bailey Shi nodded. Then I know. Bailey Yao Er's face revealed a happy and excited smile. As long as the other party wasn't married, then she still had a chance. Yun Yen, tell me the name of that black-robed man. Bailey Yun Yen looked at the love-struck faces of everyone and felt a wave of helplessness in her heart. However, who told them to be so good-looking? Usually, they were wild bees and butterflies that couldn't be stopped. Now that they were like this, it was normal. His name is Mo Yunjue. He's also unmarried. Bailey Yun Yen didn't need anyone to ask. She directly told them everything she knew. Of course, if her daughter could really be liked by the other party, then she would be very supportive. After the group of women left, suddenly, another group of men came up to greet them. Yun Yen, who is that girl in the same white dress? Bailey Yun Yen subconsciously looked to the front. With this look, she also knew who everyone was asking about. She is Linger, unmarried. Haha, you know me best. Bailey Hongzhuang was sitting opposite to Bailey Yun Yen. She could only see a group of young disciples talking to Bailey Yunyan one by one, but she couldn't hear what they were talking about. It seems like Yunyan is very popular in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Shangguan Yingning nodded slightly. Indeed, she seems to have a good relationship with everyone. Di Xiaofeng heard Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying's conversation and couldn't help but chuckle. There's a reason why Yunyan is so busy right now. What reason? You'll know soon. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Bailey Hongzhuang to understand Di Xiaofeng's reason. Originally, Bai Li Yanche was eating fruits while watching the performance. It was a very good feeling. Chapter 52-32. However, this quiet situation did not last long. A figure appeared beside him. Young Master Yanche, you must be bored here alone. Why don't I have a drink with you? Bailey Yao walked to Bai Li Yanche's side with a smile. She was not a casual person, but this was the first time in so many years that she fell in love at first sight. She knew that Bai Li Yanche would leave after a few days, so she had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, once he left, she would never have another chance. Seeing Bailey Yao appear, Bai Li Yanche could not help but be stunned. He stared at the other party in a daze, but did not know what to say. Our surnames are both Bailey. Since we're so fated, don't you think we should have a drink? Bailey Hongzhuang, who was not far away, noticed this scene and immediately understood. She remembered very clearly that the woman beside Bai Li Yanche was the woman who had just gone to find Bailey Yunyan. Yanche is really popular in everyone's eyes now. Shangguan Yingying could not help but chuckle. It's not just him. Yunjue is the same. Wherever they looked, the crowd clearly noticed that many women were secretly casting flirtatious glances at the two of them. Not far away, Bai Li Fan and the others also noticed this, but they all laughed it off. If they could really form a relationship, it would naturally be something they would be happy to see. This kind of thing was hard to say. The matters between the younger generation should be left to them to solve. Yanche is really lucky now. There are so many beauties throwing themselves at him. Xiaobai sighed. It felt that these women were looking at Bai Li Yanche, as if they wanted to eat him up. Xiao Xuanzi's eyes were filled with envy and excitement. I really hope to transform into a human soon. I hope so too. Xiaobai nodded. They were originally beasties, but now that Yanche had become a heartthrob, they were still beasties. Xiao He looked at Xiaobai and Xiao Xuanzi's envious faces, and could not help but roll her eyes. Yanche was originally good-looking. When he transforms into a human, he will naturally be handsome, but the two of you may not be so. Xiao He, are you saying that I'm not good-looking? Xiao Xuanzi expressed his dissatisfaction, staring at Xiao He with wide eyes. My main target is Little White. Look at how black it is. I don't even know what it looks like in human form. What if it looks like Nangong Yuqing? What do you think it will do? As Xiao He's words, Xiao He, who was eating, almost choked. Will I look like that ugly Nangong Yuqing? Xiao Xuanzi quietly looked at Xiaobai and nodded. Xiao He's words are reasonable. Can you repeat it for me? Xiaobai was angry. It felt that in these two guys' eyes, it looked like Nangong Yuqing. This was simply intolerable. Just as Bailey Yao and Bai Li Yanche were talking, a few more women came over. They looked like they also wanted to get to know Bai Li Yanche. Bailey Yanche couldn't help but feel helpless when he saw the sudden appearance of a few women. He wasn't good at dealing with people in the first place. Now that a few women had suddenly appeared, he really didn't know what to do. Chapter 52-33. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Bai Li Yanche's gaze, she could only shrug her shoulders and give him a helpless expression. She was naturally duty-bound to help, but there was nothing she could do about this kind of romantic debt. Bai Li Yanche felt even more helpless when he saw this. He then turned his gaze to Di Beichen. Di Beichen only quietly reached out and hugged Bailey Hongzhuang. His meaning was obvious. Who asked you to not have a wife? Bai Li Yanche silently retracted his gaze, knowing that it was impossible for anyone to help him. Now you're in for a treat. Ling looked at Bai Li Yanche playfully. Ever since Bai Li Yin-che transformed into a human, his attitude towards her was not the same as before. Normally, she could not find a chance to turn the tables. Now that she saw Bai Li Yin-che like this, she felt extremely happy. Bai Li Yin-che glanced indifferently at Ling, beside him. However, he noticed something not far away from them from the corner of his eyes. The corners of his lips hooked up into a smile. Then let's see if you'll enjoy it. Hearing Bai Li Yin-che's words, Ling could not help but frown. Her eyes were filled with confusion. How could she not understand what Bai Li Yin-che meant? However, Ling soon understood. A man from the Bailey family walked over. Ling felt that his gaze was very familiar. It was the same gaze that Dai Heoan looked at her. It turned out that Bai Li Yin-che had noticed the situation earlier, which was why he said those words. Miss Ling, this one is Bailey Uni. It's a pleasure to meet you. Bailey Uni's face was filled with a warm smile. I'm very happy to. Linger looked helplessly at the young man in front of her. When she thought about how she had lived so much longer than him, she felt that the other party was completely like a little brat. She didn't have the slightest interest in talking to him. However, Bailey Uni clearly didn't notice this as he continued. How about we go out and play together tomorrow? There are also some fun places nearby. If you want to ask me out, you have to ask him first. In the next moment, Linger stretched out her hand and pointed to a spot not far away. Hearing this, Bai Li Yin-che couldn't help but be startled. Only then did he realize that the person Ling was referring to was Bai Li Yin-che. Not only was Bailey Uni stunned, but Bai Li Yin-che was also stunned. He didn't expect that Ling would drag him into this matter at a time like this. Di Xiaofeng and the others, who were happily watching from the side, also focused their gazes on Ling and Bai Li Yin-che. Could it be that they had missed something during this period of time? Linger, what's going on? Sheng Guaningning looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. Logically speaking, among all of them, Bailey Hongzhuang should be the one who understood the situation the best. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I don't know either. Could it be that Bai Li Yin-che and Linger are a couple? Bailey Yao looked at Bai Li Yin-che in disbelief. She only wanted to know what kind of answer the latter would give. She really didn't want to believe this result, and only hoped that Linger was imagining things. Compared to everyone's astonishment and shock, Linger was very calm. Bai Li Yin-che quickly reacted, and guessed that Linger didn't want to be disturbed by others, so she used him as a shield. Seeing that Bai Li Yin-che didn't respond, Linger couldn't help but ask again. Didn't you say you would take care of me? Chapter 52-34. At the side, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Xuanzi couldn't help but look at each other. What was going on? Goddess Linger can't have fallen for Yin-che, right? Xiao Xuanzi wailed. Why didn't she wait for me to transform into a human? Maybe I'm even more handsome than Yin-che. I think you should just give up on that idea. Xiao He rolled her eyes. I think Yin-che is the most handsome after transforming into a human. How can you be so sure that everyone on the boat is dead? Xiao Xuanzi looked displeased. Xiao Bai naturally doesn't have any hope. But I'm different. What did you say? Xiao Bai narrowed his eyes, his gaze filled with endless threat. Say that again? Hey, don't hit me. Xiao Xuanzi hugged his head and flew around. Xiao He was the one who said that first. Bai Li Yin-che stared fixedly at Linger. In the next moment, under everyone's astonished gazes, he slowly walked in front of Linger. The moonlight shone on that purple figure. His white hair and purple eyes were like the treasures of heaven and earth. They were bright and resplendent, causing people to unconsciously become intoxicated by them. Linger stared blankly at Bai Li Yin-che, who was continuously approaching her. Everything seemed to have become his background. He was so handsome that it made people forget to breathe. After Bai Li Yin-che approached Linger, his lips suddenly curled into a devilish smile. With a wave of his hand, he directly pulled Linger up. The sudden action startled Linger, causing her to lose her footing. Just as she was caught off guard and almost fell, Bai Li Yin-che wrapped an arm around her waist. That's right. If you want to ask Linger out, you have to get my permission first. Bai Li Yin-che's gaze turned towards Bailey Uni. However, I don't agree. Linger, am I right? Bai Li Yin-che looked at Linger mockingly. His eyes were shining brightly like gems. Linger glared at Bai Liyan-che angrily and forced a smile on her face. Yes, this little fart beast, she had only used him as a shield. Was he taking advantage of her now? Bailey Yao, and Bailey Uni stared blankly at this scene, their gazes instantly dimming. They never thought that Bai Liyan-che would be a couple with Linger. If that was the case, wouldn't they have no hope? Bailey Yunyan and the others couldn't help but stare blankly after seeing this scene. None of them had thought about this before. But now, looking at Bai Liyan-che and Linger standing together, they felt that they were a perfect match. Moreover, the two of them were demonic beasts, so they must have a common language. If Daiheoan knew that the person Linger likes is Yin-che, he would definitely be very sad. Xiren shook his head and sighed. Daiheoan was interested in Linger and everyone could see this. It was just that Linger had always ignored him. Regarding this, they only thought that Linger didn't like Daiheoan's type. Until now he suddenly understood. It wasn't that Linger didn't like that type, but that she already had someone in her heart. So what? Shangguan Yingning raised her eyebrows. I think that Linger and Yin-che are more compatible. Don't you think that they are a match made in heaven? Bailey Yunyan slowly walked to Di Xiaofeng's side with a trace of worry on her delicate face. Chapter 52-35. Di Xiaofeng was slightly startled. He didn't expect this situation. Without waiting for Di Xiaofeng to reply, Di Beichen smiled and said, "Don't worry, they won't be angry." Really? Bailey Yunyan was still a bit worried. If it was someone else who expressed goodwill to Di Xiaofeng, she would definitely be extremely unhappy. Today's matter was her fault. She didn't understand the situation in advance. "Don't worry, it's fine." Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up. Seeing that the two of them were so sure of themselves, Bailey Yunyan nodded in relief. "That's good." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen quietly looked at each other. Others didn't know, but they were very clear. Whether or not Yin-che and Ling would develop feelings for each other in the future was something they couldn't determine. However, at least for now, they didn't have feelings for each other as everyone thought. After all, it was already good enough that these two guys didn't quarrel when they were together. It was impossible for them to be so lovey-dovey. After knowing that Bai Yin-che and Ling already had someone in their heart, Bailey Yao and Bailey Uni could only dispel the thoughts in their hearts. If the other party was someone else, perhaps they wouldn't give up. However, after comparing themselves to the other party, they really didn't have any competitive power. Thus they sadly gave up. However, after everyone knew that Bai Yin-che was no longer possible, many people turned their attention to Mo Yunjue. Originally, there were already many people interested in Mo Yunjue. Now there were even more people. Mo Yunjue was originally a handsome man. Adding on his unapproachable temperament, one could clearly feel his coldness from a few meters away, but it made people want to get closer. He was extremely good-looking. The more you looked at him, the more interesting he became. His cold lines, sculpted appearance, and cold temperament made people feel fascinated no matter which aspect it was. Mo Yunjue minded his own business and continued to sip his wine. Because of the cold aura he emitted, many women did not dare to rashly approach him even though they had feelings of admiration. This kind of man was always dangerous. If she wasn't careful, she could be hurt by his coldness. However, as everyone gave up on Bai Yin-che, Mo Yunjue became even more eye-catching and became the most desirable person in the eyes of all the women. If Ling Xiao knew about this, he would definitely regret not coming. Xiren couldn't help but sigh. Among them, only Ao Ling Xiao and Mo Yunjue were still single. If he could really find a woman he liked, that would be great. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but chuckle. When we go back, we have to tell Ling Xiao about today's scene. However, just when everyone thought that even Mo Yunjue's coldness couldn't stop the women's passion, Mo Yunjue impatiently threw out a sentence, causing all the women to give up. "I don't like women." Cough, cough, cough. Shangguan Yingning couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water and choked herself. Yunjue is really too strong. In order to avoid trouble, he can even say such words. Only Bai Liyan-che looked at Mo Yunjue thoughtfully and said, Big Brother Lingair found a very good reason. If this happens again in the future, you don't have to use me as a shield. Next time, I will directly say that I don't like people, Lingair said indifferently. Chapter 5236. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang was invited to the meeting hall in the morning to have a chat with househead Bailey. The person who invited her was naturally Bailey Yunyan. When Di Xiaofeng and the others found out that househead Bailey only invited Bailey Hongzhuang, they were very surprised. They couldn't understand why househead Bailey wanted to invite Bailey Hongzhuang for a meeting. However, when they thought of how Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to check the Bailey family's genealogy, they could roughly guess the reason. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang's previous deduction was correct. She really was a member of the Bailey family. Don't worry, Hongzhuang will be back soon. Bailey Yunyan felt everyone's worry and couldn't help but smile. On the way, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, Yunyan, have you checked the genealogy? Bailey Yunyan nodded slightly, her face filled with joy. Hongzhuang, I found Bailey Jingyu's name in the genealogy. It seems that we really are a family. As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately let out a sigh of relief. Her delicate and beautiful face also bloomed into a bright and beautiful smile. Her judgment was indeed correct. She was even more grateful that the Bailey family still existed after so many years. Even if the Bailey family's influence was much smaller than before, at least it still existed. This was already a great comfort to her. However, Hongzhuang, there's still something very strange. What is it? After I found Bailey Jingyu's name, I actually saw Bailey Hongzhuang in the househead column. I didn't expect that there was another househead in our family's history who had the same name as you. Bailey Yunyan sighed. She didn't think much of it, and just thought that it was all a coincidence. After all, that was a matter from 1,000 years ago. It wasn't impossible for the same name to appear. It's a coincidence. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her expression was calm and indifferent, but she couldn't control the waves in her heart. That was her. Bailey Jingyu was her grandfather. In order to nurture her, he had exhausted all his efforts. However, she had unexpectedly fallen and failed to live up to his expectations. Most importantly, she didn't know how sad her grandfather would be if she died. She didn't dare to think about it. After Bailey Hongzhuang entered the meeting hall, Bailey Yunyan left first. This time, Bai Li Fan only wanted to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang alone. He didn't call her along, so she naturally wouldn't follow. Master Bailey. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and smiled. Miss Hongzhuang, I took the liberty of inviting you here today. I hope you won't take offense. Bai Li Fan had a polite smile on his face. His attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang showed that he did not treat her as a junior at all. You're too polite. I'm sure Miss Hongzhuang knows why I've invited you here today. Then I'll get straight to the point. In the next moment, Bai Li Fan took out a book and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. He said, This is the genealogy of my Bailey family. Yunyan has already told me about what happened before. In the history of my Bailey family, there was indeed a master named Bailey Jingyu. Bailey Hongzhuang took the genealogy book and realized that Bai Li Fan had already marked it. Therefore, she saw Bailey Jingyu's name at first glance. In addition, I also saw your name here. I believe this is not a coincidence. Chapter 5237. Even though her heart was in a perilous situation, Bailey Hongzhuang's face remained calm. Bailey family head, what do you mean? You should know that Yunyan had received an inheritance in the Divine Cloud secret realm, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. She had heard about this from Bailey Yunyan, but she did not know the details. I've heard of it. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, Bai Li Fan stared fixedly at her and suddenly asked, Lady Hongzhuang, if I may ask, do you have the inheritance of the Bailey family in your hands? When he asked this question, he was also extremely conflicted. Even though he had found out about this from the recording crystal, he did not know how to verify it. Hence, he could only take the liberty of asking this question. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. Bai Li Fan's words were getting more and more confusing. What do you mean? As the former master of the Bailey family, she naturally had the inheritance of the Bailey family. However, Bai Li Fan's sudden question was very confusing. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, a trace of sadness flashed in Bailey Fan's eyes. Could it be that his judgment was wrong? Connecting all the dots, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was the most likely candidate. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang had returned after so many years. This was a kind of fate. Most importantly, the inheritance of the Bailey family had been lost 1,000 years ago. She was the only one who could connect all the dots. Aside from Bailey Hongzhuang, he could not think of any other possibility. Perhaps I've guessed wrongly. Bai Li Fan sighed and did not continue speaking. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was not the person he was looking for, he naturally would not reveal the family's secrets. This was something that only the master of the Bailey family would know. Bailey Hongzhuang stared suspiciously at Bai Li Fan. She knew that Bai Li Fan must have a secret, but he was unwilling to reveal it. His unwillingness to reveal it was related to the fact that she did not have the inheritance. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang decided not to hide it any longer. In fact, she had returned to the Bailey family this time because she wanted to hand over the inheritance. Now that she could make up for the regret from 1,000 years ago, she was already very happy. Actually, I do have the inheritance of the Bailey family, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Bailey Fan, who had already given up hope, was stunned when he heard this. His eyes flashed with a strong sense of surprise. What? You're right, I do have the inheritance of the Bailey family. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. Her voice was filled with certainty and seriousness. I'm just curious as to how the Bailey family found out about this. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan's eyes shone brightly. Is this true? Of course it's true. That's great. Bai Li Fan could not help but clap his hands together. His face was filled with joy. I knew it would be like this. After a moment, Bai Li Fan finally explained. To be honest, the inheritance that Yun Yan had obtained in the Divine Cloud Secret Realm was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. There was a recording crystal in it that only the master of the Bailey family can see. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and listened carefully to Bai Li Fan's explanation. She felt that this matter was related to her. Otherwise, Bai Li Fan would not have asked such questions. Chapter 5238. How is this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with shock. She had thought of many possibilities, but she never thought that someone would be able to predict all of this. When I first heard this news, I also thought it was unbelievable. However, the ancestor was a prophet, so he had already predicted all of this. I believed in this very much, but I didn't know when this woman would come. That was until Yun Yan told me about you. Not only did I find Bailey Jingyu's name in the genealogy, I also found your name. Therefore, I believe that all of this is not a coincidence. Bai Li Fan's face was filled with joy. He believed in Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang did not give him the inheritance, in reality, no matter how he looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang had no reason to lie to him. If the D family wanted to attack the Bailey family, they were no match for them. Furthermore, based on the current situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously very kind to them. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. A prophet was an extremely rare profession. Only those with special talents could have this ability. Furthermore, the ability to predict was too heaven-defying. Therefore, prophets usually did not live for very long. She never thought that a prophet would appear in the Bailey family. Furthermore, the prophet had predicted that she would come. It was truly shocking. Miss Hongzhuang, you may be the hope of our family's revival. Bai Li Fan's eyes shone brightly. He believed that the prophecy would not be wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang did not refute Bai Li Fan's words. The reason why the Bailey family was gradually declining was largely because of her. If possible, she also hoped that under her leadership, the Bailey family would become strong again. Only then would she feel less regret and guilt. Bai Li Fan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, whose expression had changed slightly, and pondered for a moment before hesitantly asking, Miss Hongzhuang, can you tell me what kind of inheritance you possess? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If I'm not wrong, a part of the family's cultivation method is missing. Back then, the cultivation method had always been with her. At that time, she was a rare genius in the family, and the inheritance was also in her hands. However, due to his death, his cultivation technique had disappeared along with him. Although the Bailey family was extremely powerful at that time, there weren't many cultivators who actually practiced the entire technique. However, any disciple who could cultivate was undoubtedly extremely powerful. It was because of them that the family had always been strong. As soon as he said this, Bai Li Fan couldn't help but widen his eyes in shock. You, could it be that you have a clan's cultivation method? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. But our family's cultivation method has disappeared for many years. How did you get it? As the master of the Bailey family, Bai Li Fan naturally knew that the real cultivation method had disappeared for many years. Hundreds of years ago, the master of the Bailey family still had the idea of finding the cultivation method. However, as time passed, everyone completely gave up. He never thought that one day, he would be able to find the family's cultivation method. This was passed down from my ancestors. As for the situation in the past, I don't know. Chapter 5239. After listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Bai Li Fan did not think too much about it. From his point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was only a junior. So many years had passed since this incident. As the head of the family, even he did not understand the situation, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang. However, as long as the cultivation technique was found, it would be great news. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, Bewitching and the others welcomed her. Hongzhuang, what did the head of the Bailey family talk to you about? Sheng Guaninging asked with concern. Seeing the concern on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Nothing much. I just confirmed that my ancestor used to be a member of the Bailey family. After hearing this, other than Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng who already knew about this, everyone else's faces were filled with astonishment. Ah, what a coincidence. Sheng Guaniying's eyes widened. So Hongzhuang, your ancestor used to be a member of the upper realm. How did he end up in the lower realm? I don't know either. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. However, I'm still very happy to be able to acknowledge my ancestors. This is great. You and Yunyan are really sisters. Di Xiaofeng chuckled and looked at Di Beichen. Beichen, we brothers are really fated. They both liked women from the Bailey family. What kind of fate was this? Di Beichen smiled. Indeed. Hongzhuang, congratulations. Mo Yunjua's icy face also revealed a trace of a smile, but there was a complicated light in the depths of his eyes. According to his judgment, this matter was not as simple as it seemed. There must be other reasons. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang did not say anything, she must have her reasons. During lunch, Bai Li Fan invited all the elders, disciples of the family, and Bailey Hongzhuang to gather together, and announced that he had something to announce. Regarding this, all the elders of the Bailey family felt that it was very strange. They did not know what the head of the family would announce at this time. However, when everyone heard the contents of Bai Li Fan's announcement, they were all dumbfounded. I announce that from today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang will be the head of the Bailey family. Bai Li Fan's solemn face revealed a serious and solemn expression. His majestic voice was extremely loud and clear, clearly into everyone's ears. Of the world of the Bailey family's family, Bailey Hongzhuang's view of the world, of course Bailey, and of Bailey Hongzhuang of course. What did Patriarch say? To Bailey Hongzhuang of the family of the family? How is this possible? Is the head of the family crazy? How could he make such a decision? Could it be that the head of the family decided to give the position of the head of the family to Bailey Hongzhuang in order to climb up to the D family? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang is also surnamed Bailey, she is not a member of the Bailey family. For a moment, everyone was in an uproar. Incredulous gazes fell on Bai Li Fan and Bailey Hongzhuang. In their opinion, this was simply a big joke. Di Xiaofeng, and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a member of the Bailey family. However, why would Bai Li Fan suddenly decide to give the position of the head of the family to Bailey Hongzhuang? This did not make sense at all. Chapter 5240. Choosing the next head of the family was definitely a serious matter. No matter what, Bai Li Fan would not joke about this matter. However, in just half a day, Bai Li Fan had made such a shocking result. How could they not be shocked? The head of the Bailey family is actually going to give the position of the head of the family to Hongzhuang. Isn't this too unbelievable? Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. Previously, they did not hear this news from Bailey Hongzhuang. When Di Beichen first heard this news, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down. When Hongzhuang mentioned this matter in the past, he knew that Hongzhuang had always felt guilty about this, and wanted to find an opportunity to make up for it. In the past, she thought that the Bailey family had disappeared. Now that she had the opportunity to become the head of the Bailey family again, it would make up for her regret. After all, she used to be the head of the Bailey family. However, due to an accident, she disappeared along with the family's inheritance. Even though so many years had passed and many things had changed, this was still her home. Everyone here was her family. The head of the Bailey family must have his own thoughts. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Seeing Di Beichen's calm expression, a trace of surprise flashed across Di Xiaofeng's eyes. It seemed that his brother had already guessed it. Bailey Yunyan also did not dare to believe it at first. However, when she recalled the recording crystal that the head of the family mentioned previously, she already had some guesses in her mind. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang was really the person that was mentioned in the recording crystal. She held the family's inheritance in her hands and carried the hope of the family to become stronger. It was because of this that the head of the family decided to give the position of the head of the family to her. If this was really the case, then she agreed. Moreover, she also liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. Shangguan Yingying, Wen Ziren, Mo Yunjue, Bai Li Yanche, and Linger all looked at each other. They had no idea what was going on. However, no matter how one looked at it, this did not seem to be a bad thing. Ziren, if Hongzhuang really becomes the head of the Bailey family, then Xiao Sou and the others won't have the right to laugh at Hongzhuang for coming from the underworld, right? When Ziren nodded slightly, a smile appearing between his brows. That's right, they've always said that Hongzhuang's status is not good enough for Beichen. But with this layer of status, this kind of saying is not justified. That's great. Shangguan Yingying's eyes sparkled. Previously, when everyone had brought up this point, even though Hongzhuang had appeared extremely calm, Shangguan Yingying knew that Hongzhuang would not feel good about it. This was like a soft spot that had been constantly poked at, but could not be refuted. However, with this layer of status, even if there was still a gap in the power of the two families, it would definitely be much smaller than before. Compared to Shangguan Yingying and the others who were overjoyed, the elders and disciples of the Bailey family could not accept this at all. They only thought that Bai Li Fan must have gone mad to make such an incomprehensible decision. Head of the family, we cannot accept this decision. The great elder was the first to step out. His elderly face was filled with intense dissatisfaction. How can the Bailey family hand over the position of the head of the family to someone else? Are you muddle-headed? As he was too angry, the great elder's words were not polite at all. Chapter 5241. Bai Li Fan was not surprised by the elder's opposition. This situation was within his expectations. He knew that his decision was crazy, but he was sure that his judgment was correct. I have already made my decision, and I will not change it. Bai Li Fan's expression was serious and solemn. Elders, I will explain the specific reason to you later. Patriarch, did they force you to do this? The first elder's eyes were filled with worry and anger. He had always known the family head's character. If there was no reason, the family head would never do such a thing. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of any other possibility other than this one. As soon as he said this, the Bailey family looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's group with unkind eyes. Young Master D. Miss Bailey, we have treated you as our honored guests. How can you bully us just because you have a strong family? That's right. Even if our clan's strength is not a match for the D clan, we will definitely not give up our entire clan just like that. The elders' attitudes changed almost instantly. They knew how much Bai Li Fan cared about the family. For Bai Li Fan to make such a decision, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others must have done something very overboard. Seeing this, Shang Guaniying could not help but frown. Her face was filled with dissatisfaction. What nonsense are you talking about? When did we bully you? They couldn't accept being labeled with such a big label for no reason. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Shang Guaniying. Leave this matter to family head Bailey. Since this was Bai Li Fan's decision, she believed that Bai Li Fan had the ability to solve it. Hearing this, Shang Guaniying's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She immediately suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. At this moment, another figure walked into the hall. Seeing this person, Bailey Union's eyes were filled with surprise and nervousness. Bailey Tianheng is here. Bailey Tianheng. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and asked silently. Bailey Tianheng is the son of the patriarch. Although the patriarch has yet to appoint a young master, everyone knows that the position of young master belongs to him. Previously, when Bailey Tianheng was training outside, he obtained quite a lot of opportunities. During this period of time, he has been in seclusion, so he did not make it to the immortal cloud mystic realm. However, from his aura, his strength has improved greatly. Bailey Union's heart was in a mess. She didn't want to see the conflict between the two sides because of this matter. In fact, even though she had roughly guessed the reason, she never thought that the master would have such great courage to make such a decision. I see. Di Xiaofeng and the others immediately understood. They had indeed never seen this person before. However, from the aura he exuded, his strength was indeed stronger than the Bailey family's disciple, who had entered the immortal cloud secret realm. Bailey Tianheng was not in a good mood to begin with. All along, the Bailey family had rarely obtained a place to enter the immortal cloud mystic realm. Even though they did not miss out on every alchemy competition, in reality, it was all about participating. Therefore, he had never taken this matter to heart. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.